Hey guys, Vicki Lemons here and welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome, and if you are returning, welcome back. I am so glad to have you here. In this video, we are talking about PTSD, but not as it relates to military people. We're talking about PTSD as it relates to trauma. One of the things I found out through therapy is that I have PTSD. And I always kind of knew I had PTSD just from my own personal readings and studying on it and studying about myself and the things I was experiencing. But when the therapist confirmed it, I said, let me delve into this a little bit more. And there were some questions that we had to go through when I was going through therapy. And these were questions that basically gave me a sense of clarity when it comes to understanding what PTSD is and how it can affect me and just things to look out for in the future. So I wanted to share these things with you just in case you are suffering from what you think is PTSD. Now, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. You should always, consult your own personal professionals to get the correct diagnosis for you. However, these were some questions that I went through and they made sense for me, so I'm going to share them. Now, the thing with the questions is you rate them from 1 to 10, 1 being doesn't apply at all, 10 meaning applies completely to your situation, okay? So we're going to start now. I did a quick video on just the questions before, some of the questions, but in this video, I'm going to delve a little bit more into what it means for me, like how each question resonates to me, so that you can just gain a little bit more, number one, insight into PTSD, but also just to get to know me a little bit better. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, do you have a hard time envisioning your future? For me, there was a time where I felt very stuck, and I felt as though I didn't have a hard time envisioning what I wanted, but it was kind of all over the place because I wasn't really tapping into the realities of my situation. So I wasn't really focused on what I can do right now. I was so focused on what I wanted to do but couldn't do. And so I had to change that thought process and not focus on the things that I can't control, but to focus on the things that I can as far as my future goes and as far as envisioning what I want for myself and how do I want to accomplish those things. So that's number 1. Number 2, I have my notes so that way I can stay on track. But number 2, do you experience flashbacks or nightmares that remind you of your trauma? For me, I experience this more or less through the intimate parts of things, because for me, I did a video about intimacy after SA, right after sexual abuse. And one of the things that bothers me sometimes is that during intimacy with my husband, certain touches, certain things will unfortunately remind me of times when I was abused. And those flashbacks can really be triggering, And so that for me is one way that I experience flashbacks. Smells of certain things. There was a time where I had dish liquid poured down my throat. My mother's husband did that, my abuser. And in that, so now when I smell certain dish detergents, it brings that up for me, right? It's not a pleasant experience, right? And so it's little things like that that causes me to have flashbacks in my trauma. So think about that in regards to you and your trauma. Number 3, do you experience intrusive thoughts in regards to your trauma? I do all the time. I used to a lot in the past. It's gotten less frequent now, but in the past, I would always think, what if I saw my abuser here? How would I react? How would I, would I jump on them? Would I, jump on them to like hurt them? Would I, all these things, it just makes you feel so anxious about everything all the time. And so, do you experience intrusive thoughts? Think about that. When you're driving, like say something happened to you when you were in a car. Does being in a car at certain speeds or at certain temperatures trigger you. Like, think about it in your situation. Is it hard for you to express your feelings? Now, this one is not hard for me to do, but what is hard for me to do is express my feelings to people who don't get it, like who don't understand, who can't relate, who can't empathize, right? It's not hard for me to express it to them, but I don't like to express my feelings to people who just don't get it. It feels to me more therapeutic to express to people who understand. Number 5, do you experience despair or depression that lasts longer than like a reasonable amount of time? And believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this about me because I have a really happy life. But you can have a really happy life, be a really great mom, be a really great spouse, and still be depressed. And you can be functionally depressed. You can walk through your day just like every other day, but deep down you really don't feel, you have this sense of like anomie. You really feel like you're walking alone. You feel like no one gets you, no one understands you. And there were years that I felt like this. And that's not to say that I didn't have love in my life. That's not to say that I didn't have a partner who loved me, kids who loved me, and vice versa. It's just there's certain things when you've been abused certain ways that no one can take that from you. No one can take that pain from you, that feeling of, you know, wrong that was done to you. You have to work through those things on your own, and, you know, with therapy. And when I say on your own, I mean with your own journey, right? Your own individual journey. And so, yeah, there were plenty of times where I was depressed. I remember crying to my husband, like, I'm just depressed. Like, I'm depressed, you know, and there's nothing that he can do in that moment, right? And so definitely I've had experience with depression, and the thing that helps me get out of my depression is honestly working on myself, like taking the time to really just think about me. One thing I've learned in my healing journey is that survivors of abuse, one thing that the majority of us lack is the lack of self-love, self-care, self-worth. And so we don't take care of ourselves in certain ways as we would maybe other people because we don't really feel worthy. We've always been conditioned to take care of everyone else. And so I had to learn to start taking care of me. Number 6, like, are you always waiting for something negative to happen? When things are going good, you're just like, things are going too good. And I struggled with that for a long time because I have always had this sense of purpose on my life. And so I want to complete so many things in my world. And I feel like certain things kind of derailed me. And it made me feel like I'm not going to have enough time to get the things that I want to get done the way I want them done because of the things that were done to me in my past, right? And so, but that I know now that's not the truth, right? It's not the truth. And how I combat that now, always being anxious, when I would always be anxious and like, you know, something's bad is going to happen right now because everything is going so good. How I combat that now is I say to myself, that's not your story. That's not your story. If I'm driving and I'm thinking I'm getting ready to get into a car crash because, you know, life is too good right now, I say, that's not my story. If I'm looking up on social media, I have a, you know, earache and it says, oh, you have a tumor. That's not your story, right? I have to constantly say that to myself in order for me to bring myself back down. And for me, that works for me. But you have to find the things that work for you. Number 7, do you have trouble trusting in intimate relationships? 100% I do. And that's another thing that therapy helped me work out is that, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. And I'm an introvert, according to my therapist, not because I don't like people, but because I don't trust people. And I think that that is key in understanding how deep these things go, because I always felt myself to be a very trusting person. But when I started to think about it, I was only trusting in situations that I put myself in, not that I was put in. Like I had to control it in order for me to trust it. And that's something that it took a lot of time for me to figure out. But I am also one that will also disconnect very easily. I give you an opportunity to show me who you are. And if that showing me who you are makes me feel that I can't trust you, or that you will take away any part of my peace, I will let you go. And I do it in love, but I'm because of how I was raised, and because of the trauma, and because of where I am now in life, for me, controlling my peace and controlling my environment is very important to me. And so even though I may want to have an intimate relationship with you, a close friendship, or as soon as I start to see behavior, inconsistent behavior, I'm out. I'm out. There's just something in me that just doesn't allow it to move forward. Number 8, are your emotions all over the place? Do you go from 1 to 10 like that, right? And that's just your inability to control your emotions, because there could be many reasons for this. Sometimes when we are kids, we're not heard. So when we become adults, we yell and we scream so that we can be heard, right? Sometimes maybe we had to scream in our home in order to be heard, right? So one of the books I'm reading now is about controlling your emotions, and I'm working a lot on that. And I have worked so much on that because I was, especially in the beginning of our marriage, my husband was one to always walk away, and I was ready to fight because that's how I was raised, and he was raised with parents who ignored everything. So here I am trying to get him to react, and here he is doing the complete opposite. It was like, But over the years, we've learned to be more middle ground. And so there's no yelling like that. There's no fighting. There's also no walking away. We deal with it, we handle it, and we speak about it like adults. And that's just a place I had to get to. But until I knew about this being part of PTSD, I thought it was just, growing pains in your marriage, right? But it's part of the trauma that I experienced as a child. Number 9, do you have feelings that manifest as like headaches or backaches and things like that? One thing I found out is that mine resonates in my back and in my stress level. My stress level completely determines my mood at times. And that's something that I'm working on, obviously managing my stress levels. However, there's certain times where your stress levels, there's nothing you can do about it. You're excited, you're mad, and you have to learn how to work through it. But if they manifest in headaches and back pain and things like that, then you're probably not working through it the best way for you, because you should be able to release those things, right? Through meditation, through maybe a hot bath, through, maybe some reading, maybe a walk, maybe going outside and just sitting by yourself, right? Things like that. We have to learn to manage those feelings so that when we do have them, they don't cause us to have these aches and pains in our body. Number 10, do you isolate when you are sad? Yes, I used to do this all the time. I'm getting better at it as I'm getting older. But one of the things that this can stem from, as far as PTSD from childhood, is especially Gen X kids, where we were basically told to be seen, not heard. What are you crying for? I'll really give you something to cry for, so you would just walk away. You get out of my face with them tears in your face. That's the kind of rhetoric that I was taught when I was growing up. And so, of course, one would be like, let me go to my room and close the door and be by myself. I don't want to talk about this right now. I'm just going to ignore you for the next 3 days, right? But that's not healthy, right? That's not how we communicate in a healthy manner. And so I had to realize that, and now I've gotten so much better with that. But one thing I will always say is that don't allow where you are in your growth process right now deter you from where you can be. Everything is a journey, and each one of these questions I'm asking, they're a task all in itself, right? So we have to work on everything, and working on everything won't get done in one day, 1 week, 1 year. It's a constant process. That's why it's called a journey, a healing journey. So yes, I did isolate for many years when I would get upset, when I would feel sad. And it was also just another form of me feeling like no one understood, right? And so now I don't isolate like that anymore. There's times here and there I might, go to my office and close my door and get some peace. There's nothing wrong with you regaining your peace to control your emotions, right? And to control your emotions. But, days at a time, ignoring someone, not speaking, get that stuff out. Get it out. Even if you have to write it down. Maybe you don't want to speak to the person, but write it down so that it's not in you, and then you can at least process it. Number 11, do you self-medicate? Whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's shopping. For me, alcohol and shopping were two of my main things, okay? And I'm always transparent with you guys. I don't hide anything because I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done in my life. Now, what I will say is I was abusing alcohol very, very much. And I'm not one who says you shouldn't drink. I'm one who says you shouldn't allow drinking to affect your emotions, right? It shouldn't be, I'm drinking because I'm sad. I'm drinking to escape. And that's what I was doing. I was drinking to escape. I was drinking to escape the feelings that I didn't even realize I was having inside. I didn't even realize it was making me feel so depressed. I didn't realize it was that stuff that was making me, that was still pulling me down. I just thought, hey, I like to have a couple drinks. Oh, why can't I stop? I'm going to keep going. Oh, why do I like to get like this? Because I don't remember anything and I can just move on the next day like nothing happened. And that's not okay, right? That's not okay. And if we get to the point, once we get to the point when we realize that, then you can no longer say, I didn't know. Now you have to take action and control it, right? So that's where I am on that journey. Number 12, do you engage in high-risk behavior in order to feel alive? Well, for me, that was the drinking. And it was more of a binge drinking. So I would feel really excited and let's go out. Let's go do something. Let's go party. Let's go. And then when it comes down, you feel like crap, right? You probably said things you didn't want to say. You probably did things you didn't want to do. It just takes you out of character. Well, it took me out of character and put me into a persona that I did not want to be. And that's not who I am. And it's not who I want to be, recognized as. And number 13, do you experience more anxiety than you feel is normal? And that's one thing that I, didn't realize. I have a lot of anxiety in me. And one of the things my therapist suggested, which I do, is take ashwagandha. It does help regulate my moods. And also, I had to learn, like I said earlier in the video, about that's not my story. Anytime I'm anxious, calm down. What are you anxious about? This might happen. That's not your story. No one's here to hurt you. Nothing's gonna happen. Like constant reassurance in my mind and in my spirit, right? If you feel the need to say it out loud, say it out loud. But in the sense that, like, console yourself, like, be the nurturing part in you that you need to say, there's nothing gonna happen to me right now. The threat is gone. The threat is gone. Nothing else is gonna happen to you. And if something does try to come your way, you can handle it. You can deal with it, right? It's just that constant talk. So once again, you're going to rate these things 1 to 10. 1 being, doesn't apply to me. 10 being, it really does. This is something that I deal with on a regular basis. And then from there, you work on that, right? And so, as always, I thank you for watching. I hope you have gained something from this message, and I would love for you to like and subscribe so that I can continue to keep bringing you videos just like this one. If you have any other topic ideas that you would like me to go over, please put them in the comments. As always, thank you and God bless.
With God on my side, nothing will stop. With no fears in my mind, no devil is old on me.